Before we begin, let me explain some important cultural context for this Japanese story. In rural Japan, the arrival of new religious groups, especially those considered cults, often creates significant community tension. These groups frequently build large facilities in remote areas where land is cheap and opposition might be weaker. The term Shinko Shukyo refers to new religious movements that emerged in modern Japan, some of which have been controversial. Japanese rural communities are typically very close-knit, and anything that disrupts the traditional harmony is viewed with deep suspicion. The concept of kimugameshi, literally testing one's courage, is a traditional Japanese activity, especially popular among young people during summer. Unlike simple dares, kimugameshi is deeply rooted in Japanese culture and typically involves groups visiting scary or supposedly haunted places at night to test their bravery. It's often done during summer festivals or as a seasonal tradition, and has spiritual undertones related to facing one's fears and proving maturity. Now let's begin our story. This happened during the winter of my senior year in high school. Among the many memories I've lost over these 17 years, I'm writing this based on notes I kept, relying on the few fragments that remain. I've added details and conversations where my memory fails, but I've tried to avoid exaggeration as much as possible. My hometown was extremely rural. As far as I can remember, it was surrounded by rice fields and mountains. The only entertainment was riding our motorcycles for about an hour to reach the city center, where we could go to karaoke. In 1991, a certain new religious facility was suddenly built in this remote countryside. During the planning stage, local residents strongly opposed the construction. I remember my parents frequently attending protest meetings. They submitted petitions to the mayor and governor, and tried to appeal to local media. However, the religious group presented certain conditions, and construction was forced through. Various rumors circulated about these conditions, but the most likely explanation was that the group offered substantial donations to our declining rural city, causing the local government to turn a blind eye to residents' concerns. The religious facility was built on the edge of our residential area. Its grounds were roughly equivalent to 2 or 3 Tokyo domes in size. Land in our declining rural area was probably cheap. The facility was completed in the fall of my junior year. Parents and school teachers warned us, "Don't go near that place and don't get involved with those believers." About 8 of us classmates went to look at it. The entire perimeter was surrounded by high walls, with a massive gate at the front. On top of both sides of the gate, terrifying demon-like faces were carved, resembling traditional Japanese Hanya masks. When my classmates saw this, they excitedly shouted, "Whoa, it's a devil cult! A devil cult!" Because of this, at school we started calling that religion the devil cult, or the Hanya group. Completely made up nicknames. Sometimes when we were bored, a few of us would ride our bicycles around the facility out of curiosity and to kill time. Strangely, we never once saw any believers or staff members. There was so little sign of human presence and nothing problematic happened, so gradually everyone lost interest. In my senior year, the religious facility was no longer a topic of conversation. But one day, my classmate Alex suggested, "Want to go there for a courage test?" According to Alex, I heard from my parents that pretty girls go in and out of the devil cult building. They come shopping at our store every day. Alex's family ran the only reasonably large supermarket in our area. Alex's parents seemed quite grateful to the devil cult for spending 20 to 30,000 yen on groceries every day. Alex said, "My parents told me the believers there are quiet and good people. It's not scary, so let's go check it out." Since my other classmates and I had nowhere else to go and were bored every day, we decided, "Alright, let's go." The courage test was decided. The members were me, Alex, Ben, Chris and David from the same class, 5 of us, plus underclassmen Eric and Frank, making 7 guys total. With 7 people we figured it wouldn't be scary. Everyone had a casual attitude about going. We arranged to meet at the abandoned post office near the facility. When I arrived, Alex, Ben, Chris and Eric were already there. David and Frank didn't show up even after waiting nearly 30 minutes. So the five of us decided to go. We parked our bicycles near the facility and walked to the gate on foot. We were saying things like, "Wow, it's really scary at night, and we should have brought another flashlight." When we reached the massive gate, we could see lights on in one section of a building far inside the grounds. We joked, "Whoa, the believers are still awake, and maybe they're summoning devils or something." Then Chris said, "Hey, we can get inside here." Alex replied, "I know about that. If you go around the corner, there's a small gate where we can enter." We said, "Alex, why didn't you tell us sooner?" Walking along the wall, we turned at the corner, walked a bit further and found a small door in the wall. When Alex pushed it with his hand, it opened inward. We went through the door one by one. It was just wide enough for one person to pass through, and infiltrated the grounds. After that, we wandered around the empty grounds, turning our flashlights on and off. We whispered things like, "There's nothing here and it would be really bad if we got too close to the buildings." Since there was absolutely nothing interesting, we decided to approach the facility. The grounds had about 100 meters of completely empty land from the front gate, with 3 large buildings lined up beyond that. I don't remember clearly, but they had very strange, odd-looking designs. As we crept around the facilities, we found a clean, well-lit public restroom building standing alone between 2 of the main buildings. The entire area around the restroom was paved with clean white concrete, and even had benches. Alex suggested, "Let's take a break here." The other classmates protested, "Huh? We'll be in serious trouble if they find us. And let's just do a quick loop and go home." I also said, "If they find us, they might call the police. We're so close to graduation. If we cause trouble now, we'll be in big trouble. Let's go home quickly." However, Alex sat down on the bench and started smoking. We decided, okay, just one smoke and then we'll go home. So, we all sat down and smoked. Then Alex said, "I'm going to use the restroom for a minute." And he went into the public restroom. Ben and Chris joked, "That guy can actually pee in a restroom inside a building he broke into, and if he takes a dump, the devils will curse him." We were smoking and joking around, when Alex called out from inside the restroom in a small voice, "Hey guys, come here, there's something interesting." We shuffled over, and Alex pointed to a toilet stall saying, "Look, what do you think this is?" When Ben said, "It's a toilet," Alex replied, "Try opening the door." Ben said, "What?" and opened the door. When he opened it, strangely, there were stairs leading underground inside. Alex said, "Weird, right? There are toilets lined up, but this one has stairs." I finally realized how strange this situation was. First of all, Alex's behavior had been inexplicable all along. Alex suddenly suggesting the courage test, knowing the location of the side door, deliberately opening the restroom door. It was all suspicious. I asked Alex, "Were you actually planning to take a dump here?" Alex answered vaguely, "Well, yeah, that's right." Then he started asking everyone, "Want to go down and check it out?" I naturally refused. "Don't say crazy things, let's go home quickly. If we keep hanging around here, they'll find us." Alex started mocking me, "Haha, you're scared, aren't you? You're scared of just going down a little bit." I thought this was Alex's provocation. It seemed like he was trying to lure us downstairs. Ben also supported me. "I'm not going either. Let's go home." But the other 2 said things like, "Sounds interesting, let's just go down for a bit." They sided with Alex. Alex continued provoking Ben and me. "You guys are so brave." But Ben spat out, "I'm not going. Go by yourselves." Alex said, "Then the 3 of us will go down first. You guys wait here for now." And the 3 of them went down. Ben and I stayed inside the restroom to wait. The restroom area was surrounded by facilities with many windows, so we thought, we don't know which window they might spot us from. So we stayed inside the restroom. Ben asked, "Hey, isn't Alex acting strange?" I answered, "Alex is weird today. It feels like he planned to bring us here from the beginning." Ben replied, "I was thinking the same thing. After that, Ben and I talked about tonight's events and what to do if we got caught. After about 5 minutes, we both started getting irritated. Aren't they taking too long? Ben suggested, should we just go home by ourselves? But Alex's group had taken both flashlights when they went down, so we judged it would take too long to find that small side door in the darkness. Reluctantly, we continued waiting. Then we heard footsteps from far away. Multiple footsteps could be heard approaching from the distance. Both Ben and I tensed up immediately. We whispered to each other, "This is bad, people are coming. We're in trouble." The atmosphere became tense and strained. The footsteps were distant, but we couldn't tell which direction they were coming from. Even if we went outside now, we didn't know the layout or structure of the facility, so we might get caught anyway. Ben said in a quite panicked voice, "This is bad, they're getting closer, what should we do?" I said, my heart pounding, "They're not necessarily coming this way. If they do, let's hide." But the footsteps were definitely approaching our restroom. At that moment, Ben suddenly grabbed the handle of another toilet stall, not the one with stairs. But it wouldn't open. The next stall also wouldn't open for some reason. Ben whispered, "Damn, they're locked." The footsteps were probably within 15 meters now. Intuitively, I was certain those people were definitely coming to the restroom. Ben must have had the same premonition. Both of us just stood there frozen. Ben said, "No choice, let's go down." I replied, "Seriously, I really didn't want to go down those mysterious stairs, but there was nowhere to hide in the restroom anymore. If we ran, we'd probably get caught in the darkness since we didn't know the area well. Perhaps our judgment was impaired by the special circumstances of being in a religious facility in the middle of the night." With the footsteps about to reach the restroom area, Ben and I opened the stall door and quietly descended the stairs, trying to muffle our footsteps. The stairs were concrete, and while I expected them to be long, surprisingly we reached the bottom after only about 10 steps. It was pitch black, so we couldn't see anything. Ben, who was walking ahead, opened a door that must have been right in front of us at the bottom. Inside was a room. Several orange light bulbs hung from the ceiling, bathing the entire room in a pale orange glow. Ben and I entered the room and quietly closed the door behind us. Looking around the room, it was about 15 tatami mats in size. I don't remember clearly. An empty concrete room with a large circular object hanging in the center. It's hard to describe, but it was like a giant iron hula hoop hanging vertically. The hula hoop was so huge it nearly touched the walls at both corners of the room. Ben and I weren't paying attention to that thing. We were frozen in front of the door. I whispered, "Where are Alex and the others?" "They're not here," Ben replied with a strained expression. I don't know. Then, as we predicted, the footsteps we'd been hearing entered the restroom. We could hear the footsteps echoing through the concrete from directly above. There seemed to be 3 or 4 people. We stood frozen in front of the door, unable to move. We could hear some kind of muttering voices, but we couldn't make out the content. It sounded like they were having a discussion, but also like each person was muttering something to themselves. Ben kept his head down with his eyes closed. I don't know how much time passed. I tried to think of something fun, desperately trying to remember a popular comedy show from that time called Bakusho Prestige. Before I knew it, I realized the muttering voices in the restroom had increased from 3 or 4 people to about 10. I thought the people upstairs knew we were hiding here. I started shaking with fear. The creepy muttering voices made me feel faint. Suddenly, the muttering stopped, and we heard 2 consecutive door opening sounds. Gatan. Then another gatan. I immediately knew those were the sounds of toilet stall doors opening, and I got goosebumps. Were there people in the other stalls from the beginning? I don't know if Ben realized the same possibility, but since those stalls had been locked earlier, they weren't open from outside. Someone must have come out from inside the stalls. Then we heard footsteps coming down the stairs. This was the limit. It wouldn't take even 15 seconds for them to reach the bottom. I grabbed Ben's arm tightly. When the footsteps on the stairs reached about the midpoint, Ben let out a pathetic scream. terrified. Wah! He shook off my hand and ran toward the back of the room. That's when it happened. The moment Ben jumped through that circular ring, his figure instantly disappeared. I was simply stunned. He should have jumped to the other side of the hula hoop-shaped ring, but Ben had suddenly vanished. Rather than fear, I was in a state of shock. I stood between the door and the hula hoop. I'll apologize, I thought. I'm sorry, we entered without permission. I'm truly sorry. That's what I planned to say. The door slowly opened. Through the gap in the opening door, a face deliberately peeked out. An elderly person wearing something like a crown was peering at me with just their face showing. They had a full, beaming smile. I couldn't tell if it was an old man or woman, but it was a wrinkled elderly person with long white hair and a crown, looking at me with a full smile. It was a smile filled with malice, unlike anything I'd ever seen. At first glance I thought, this is not a normal human being. I felt this was not someone you could reason with. I didn't want to be seen for even a moment by that elderly person's emotionless smile. A pathetic scream came from deep in my throat. Hiya! Like Ben, I also jumped into the hula hoop-shaped ring. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital room. My head felt foggy. There was an IV needle in my arm, and I was lying on my back. It took nearly 3 minutes just to sit up. Looking out the window, I saw a beautiful sunset. There was no one in the room. It was a private hospital room. I couldn't think about anything, and just sat there in a daze. I don't know how long I sat there dazed. After a while, the door opened with a gotcha sound and a nurse appeared. The nurse looked quite surprised, her eyes widening, then immediately ran off somewhere. I remained in a daze. Later, the attending physician and several other doctors came and seemed to be talking to me, but I apparently remained dazed. After some time, my consciousness gradually became clearer. The doctor said something incomprehensible. We called your family a moment ago. You've been sleeping for a long time, but don't worry, you're fine now. Even after waking up, I couldn't grasp the sense of time. Eventually a woman who seemed to be my mother and a young girl entered the room crying. She was not my mother, and my name is not what they were calling me. The woman claiming to be my mother cried with joy. Thank goodness, thank goodness. The young girl said to me while breaking down in tears. Big brother, welcome back, but I don't have a sister. I have a brother who's 3 years older and in college, but no sister. I asked repeatedly, who are you? Who are you? The doctor told the woman and girl who claimed to be my family, as if encouraging them. It's probably after effects, but he should be fine with time. They said, Mom will stay with you all night tonight. I underwent various tests while lying down, and I told the doctor, I'm not who you think I am. That's not my mother, and I don't have a sister. But the doctor just tilted his head. Your memory is a bit, You've been bedridden for nearly 2 years, so your memory probably isn't completely restored yet. Even being told this, I felt no shock. I couldn't comprehend what was happening in reality, so I couldn't even feel shocked. The doctor was desperately trying to encourage me, choosing his words carefully. The woman claiming to be my mother was crying, shocked by my memory loss. I said I need to use the restroom and went to the bathroom. When I tried to stand up, my legs felt abnormally heavy and I couldn't stand easily. The doctor, nurse and the girl claiming to be my sister helped me. In the restroom I remembered that night for the first time. Strangely, for the several hours after waking up, I hadn't thought about that courage test even once. The restroom was very scary, but with the doctor who supported me and the mother and sister who came with me, I went inside. After using the facilities, I looked in the mirror and screamed. The face was not mine. It was a completely different person. I don't remember, but apparently I had a severe panic attack at that time, and it was quite serious. After that I was hospitalized for nearly a month. I kept telling the man and woman claiming to be my parents, the girl claiming to be my sister, the supposed friends who visited, and a man claiming to be my former teacher, I'm not who you think I am, and I don't know you. I continued talking about Alex and Ben. in my past and memories as far as I could remember. But everything was dismissed as memory disorder and amnesia. They insisted Alex didn't exist. Ben didn't exist. Such people didn't exist. However, everyone treated me very kindly. According to the doctor and others, I was found collapsed beside my bicycle on the way home from school by a passerby, and was brought to the hospital. All the information coming into my world was completely unfamiliar. For example, when they said this is Kanagawa Prefecture, I had never heard of Kanagawa Prefecture. Such a prefecture didn't exist before. I'd never heard of the currency unit yen. I didn't know about Tokyo. I didn't know about Japan, and so on. Each time the doctor would ask, then what was it? But I simply couldn't remember. I couldn't remember Alex's name either. I repeatedly explained a classmate friend, but everyone said there's no such person. I desperately explained to the doctor many times about entering that facility and going into that hula hoop, but it was brushed off with, that was a dream you had while sleeping. But terrifyingly, I myself began to seriously think I have amnesia. My previous life and world were all dreams I had while sleeping. I began to believe I had amnesia with another personality and world's memories overwritten. Either way, I had no choice but to live life as a different person. After discharge, I was taken home by the father, mother, and sister. When they asked, "Don't you remember?" It was a house and townscape I was seeing for the first time. I attended counseling and desperately tried to adapt to this new life. The words and information coming to me were divided into those that felt strange and those that didn't. Prefecture names and country names were all unfamiliar, and past history and historical figures were new to me, but most daily vocabulary felt completely natural. Television, newspapers, chairs, remote controls, everyday conversation felt completely normal. At first, I couldn't fit in with the family and spoke formally, washed my own underwear because I didn't want them to do it. But strangely, I came to think of them as real family, and began to think my previous life was a past life or dream. When I started thinking this way, memories of my previous life gradually faded. The faces of my parents, brother, friends, and rural townscape that I had remembered clearly became harder to recall. However, I clearly remembered only that last night at the religious facility, especially that elderly person's beaming smile. I couldn't forget it. I adapted to my new life. Counseling sessions decreased, and 6 months later I returned to high school. I restarted as a 20-year-old high school senior, made friends and felt happiness. TV programs were all shows I'd never seen, which felt very fresh. Living in an urban area in Kanagawa Prefecture was very enjoyable. However, about 4 months after returning to high school, an unexpected connection between that world and this world appeared. During summer vacation, I was looking for books at a bookstore for homework assignments. Among the books displayed, I noticed certain characters. It was a religion-related book. Those characters were unmistakably the name of the new religion I had infiltrated on that last night. I was shocked. I picked up the book and read it desperately. In this world, that religious group was apparently quite a large organization. In my previous world, it was an unknown new religious group I'd never heard of. But here it was a global religious organization. I bought and read many related books about that religion, but it was a meaningless act. Reading them didn't change anything. I couldn't return, nor could I prove my past to anyone. If I told people around me, they would probably say, "That was just a dream about that religion when you were unconscious." Besides, I didn't want to cause trouble or worry for my kind new family and friends. I had finally returned to high school, and people around me felt relieved that I had stopped talking about the past. Considering the guilt toward them and the pain of returning to counseling, I decided to ignore it and live a normal life. 17 years have passed, and I'm now an ordinary office worker in Tokyo. Why am I writing this down now? Last month, a sealed letter arrived at my home. The contents of the anonymous letter were, "I apologize for the sudden contact. I know you very well. You should know me well too. It took a very long time and effort to find you. Your name is original name. But do you remember, I will definitely send another letter. Please don't tell anyone about this letter's contents. Not even your fiancé. Thank you. Even being called by that name, I no longer feel any recognition, though I vaguely think I might have had such a name before. I felt strangely neither fear nor expectation about receiving the letter. It felt more like someone else's business. That letter's sender sent a second letter last week. To summarize, the name you know me by is name. You don't remember, do you? Apparently only you and I made it here. It also said, I'll be at location in front of station on the 25th of this month at 7 p.m. Please definitely come. There's something I urgently need to tell you. Please come alone. I don't remember who that name belongs to at all, but I plan to go meet them. I feel like I have to go. Whoever is standing there, I probably won't recognize them, but if they're from that night's group, I'll know who they are if we talk. I hope it's Ben. Since I don't know what will happen, I thought I'd write this down. I plan to leave similar letters for my fiancé and my sister, who has become my only family.